Hi, I'm Michelle Powers, and I'm starting my next lesson in the elements of art in the creativity topic that we're exploring. The elements of art, remember, are the rules or the laws, the fundamentals that you need to know about art so that you can use them without really thinking about it too much to create your art. And we have already discussed what creativity is, what an artist is, apprentice. And we have also um, explored what a dot and a line can do. And they're the very basic building blocks for making art. The next thing we are going to work with are shapes and forms, and they come after you know dots and lines. The main artist that I'm going to be working with today is Kandinsky. And he was a Russian artist before the Bolshevik Revolution who explored science and justice and lots of concepts with his art, and then discovered his abstractions, the things he wanted to work with in abstract forms. I have on a Kandinsky shirt. It's wonderful. He is what I consider one of the main founders of abstract art, and he was a very persecuted artist in both World War I and World War II. He met all the great artists of his day and had many, many shows with them. He fled Russia eventually. He was a successful artist. He went to Germany and became a citizen there, and then he endured the persecution of the ethnic cleansing of the Nazis. Because he was Russian, he lost his German citizenship, and through all this he had shows and was with friends. He often escaped to Switzerland to get away from the probes of the Nazis, and he was one of the founders of the Bauhaus in Germany, and that eventually collapsed. Those were some great architects, Frank Lloyd Wright and others, Mies van der Rohe, other designers and artists. So then he went on to Paris. He was fortunate enough to escape to Paris. Often his friends were in Switzerland when the heat was taken off of them, and there were many, many early abstract artists that gathered there as well. So while World War II was going on, Switzerland became a refuge, and Paris. Of course, we know Paris to be one of the wonderful centers of creativity in the world. And that is a place where Kandinsky finally bloomed in his last years, and where he passed away. So this is a wonderful book. I recommend you finding out about Kandinsky. This is all his writings, and he wrote a wonderful treatise or paper on point and line to plane, which is what we're doing today. We have studied point, which is dot, line from two dots connected, to plane, which is a shape, and we're going to look at that. And form is something I take into 3 dimensions. So these have all of his wonderful writings on spirituality and art. Abstract art is very spiritual. A lot of people don't know that. It's the place where your imagination grows. Abstraction is something that it doesn't fit in all the normal ideas, not a camera image, not a realistic rendering, nothing of that at all. It's an abstraction from nature, could be that, from your imagination, from visions that you may have, dreams, whatever. And it's the most valid form of thinking there is. The last great movement in thinking in the Western world, in creativity, in art, in music. We have at this time Debussy, whose beautiful music began to create different musical forms and moods that were different from what that people had been taught, maestro to maestro. And Eric Satie, who developed more jazzy concepts and into jazz, which is like abstract art. A lot of abstract artists really are relevant with their musical in their interpretations in visual art. And Kandinsky certainly had his mentors around from music, Schoenhauer, and theater. Theater of the Absurd later grew from these wonderful out-of-the-norm ideas. So his treatise on spirituality and point to line to plane is two I really recommend. I recommend you get this book. He was a great teacher as well. And we're going to be using these two books with Kandinsky during this time. And that is more of his, this is all of his art. This book is his writings, and this book is his art. And you can see him grow over the years to the final parts of his canvases are so rich in abstraction and colors and blacks and whites. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience to watch his art grow. And remember, the whole time he was under severe persecution, first from the communists of Russia and then from the Nazis of Germany. Okay. So, what we're going to need today is, you probably need your viewfinder. I would always keep your viewfinder when you do these lessons with me. A piece of nice pressed charcoal. It's compressed and it won't unravel as you draw. But those are fun too, the sticks of charcoal, if you want to do some fast gesture drawings. And then, or a charcoal pencil. They're wonderful to use too. You need a pair of scissors for later on. Alright, so I think that's about all we need today. I want to share one of my pieces of work with you. I have 4 of these. They're pen and paper drawings. They're gestures, and they're from live performances at a coffee house on the Monterey Peninsula. And I love jazz. My dad was a musician. I don't really play much jazz, but I love to listen to it. It's a place where I can relax. And this is like a small band that was in the coffee house, and I just listened and started sketching. And I took my pencil on my paper, and I just did gesture drawings all over the page. And you can see a trombone every once in a while, a horn, a drum, the keyboard, different figures. And I have 4 of these. They're all different. There's a bass in there. They aren't all positioned the way they were as they were playing. I changed them around. But that's the gesture. One line, it's the interior energy of the band, the music. And it was a wonderful experience. The more you do gesture drawings, the more you'll understand what that is. The more you'll see that kind of inner energy in an object. An object can be a gesture. In a movement, and that's like going towards impressionism, when you see something moving and you want to catch the gesture. Or just a figure standing. And sometimes it's just 1 or 2 strokes, and you've got an amazing rendering of a gesture of something. It's just the suggestion, and it helps free you to think about other ways you want to see your subject. Remember, when you want to draw what you like. If it's people, if it's trees, if it's flowers, if it's the ocean, if it's mountains, I don't know, it might be your pet. Whatever you like, that's what's important. But it's a new way to see that object that you love. It's a new way to find out what you really want. And a new way with materials maybe you've never used. That's another thing we'll be exploring. So I want you to have these materials with you. You can always look at this video later and get the ideas. If you don't want to, if you just want to listen now, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to do shape first, which is the connection of dots and lines into a shape. And it can be geometric or abstract. And of course, abstract first was geometric and then was abstract. And you'll see early paintings of Kandinsky's work that are geometric. There are geometric forms inside. And slowly, over the years, those disappear. And he becomes more abstract. So I'm going to do don't use a ruler, please. Shape, a dot, a dot, a dot, a dot. Okay? I just put them at various places. Then I'm going to connect the dots. That's one, that's one, that's one, and that's one. Okay, so it's like almost like a parallelogram, which is a geometric shape. But it's not. It's also a rectangular parallelogram. But we're not going to do geometric shapes so much. We're going to do them as abstract. And that will take us into three-dimensional forms. When you want to abstract something, you can make it, bend it, move it to a shape that you like, a pleasing shape. This is kind of just an ordinary shape, but it's not specific. It's not, engineering would not use this. They would have to have all the points exact, all the lines straight. So we don't do that in art. Art is like breathing. You can let it expand. You can do things that you normally couldn't do if you're hindered by mathematical ideas and concepts. Did I ever tell you the story that I almost flunked plane geometry in my sophomore year in high school? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I made all A's and B's otherwise all through high school. But in geometry, I didn't understand any of it. And later on I figured out my talent uses the planes and from theorems to make three-dimensional sculptures. And I've done that. And I do it subconsciously. I don't even analyze it and take it apart. I did a little cartoon about that, how my teacher would yell at us because we didn't understand the theorems, Pythagorean theorems, and he didn't ever understand why I couldn't get it. And I'd study and look at it, and my mother would fret, and my brother said, "Why don't you get it?" And I said, "I don't know, I just don't." I just about flunked out, and I passed, barely, but it kept me out of the honor roll all through high school. It was too bad. I never took another straight mathematical class again, but I taught mathematics a lot. I talked about the golden mean. You'll find out that from Renaissance art and classical art, which was more mathematical than you'd ever believe. And then you would find out about how abstraction pulls away from geometry. And one of the best things I ever did was take pre-classical and classical art history and find that a lot of the Greeks had imported information from the conquests that the Greek army had made all around, the Greek navy. And their beautiful advanced civilization was most often appropriated from other cultures all around them. And finally, at the end, Plato makes a call for a republic, a different form, a different way to learn, because he was so opposed to the warlike conditions of democracy. And I don't know why it had to be that way. I guess it was more of a stifling thing. When you take slaves and appropriate people and take their ideas. So this is an interesting thing if you study history, to find out how all this develops, how everything develops, and how some things are kept hidden from our knowledge for a long time. That's why I love archaeology and the brave archaeologists out in the world digging around looking for answers. And in art and archaeology, it is profound, some of the discoveries they make and the corrections that are made in how we have developed our Western culture. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We've talked about geometric and abstract. I'm going to take this, bring this book up, Kandinsky's book, and let you see one of his amazing paintings. And you can see the geometric shapes, the more strict lines of shapes. You can see all kinds of ways to use geometric shapes that weren't really, is an art, aren't really used in science, but it frees up scientific thinking. And Einstein was one of Kandinsky's friends. And they were all part in the Bauhaus development, and they all managed to escape the Nazis, thank goodness. So looking at his early work, you begin to see the power of the line and the power of shape. It's amazing. And like the Impressionists in Europe, he also had the power of the dot. This is an early painting, and it still has a representational shape in it, the woman, the figure of the woman. It's a nighttime scene, but you see dots being used to build up the shape of the woman, the ground, and the atmosphere of night. You look at a shape, you often think of, you see the white space and the lines and the colors in it, but the black spaces are important too. And I'm introducing this now. Next time we'll see it more, look at it more, and something you can use in your drawing and paintings. Negative and positive space. Negative space is the black areas. Areas around a shape. Could be white areas, but it's the areas around a shape. Or else on a positive space, a positive area, is like the shape. This white shape right here has dots inside it, and then the negative space all around it. One's a line, curved line, this shape, and here are some red and black lines defining that. That has this jagged edge, a nice round edge, and dots. All kinds of things happening there to make a pattern, a textural pattern. And those are things we're going to talk about the next time. So I want you to make shapes using dots. Kandinsky calls it points. Make points all over your page. That would be fine. Make dots. Just like stippling almost, only lots of space between. And then take the line and connect some of the dots. Yeah. This helps you free from your geometric mathematical thinking, the things that have already been established in our civilization, so that you can open up your doors inside. Your spirit can flow. It's very important to feel that when you're making art. You don't want to be all uptight, and that's why we don't do representational art in the contemporary modes, because you have to follow strict guidelines on what things really look like. We can use a camera for that now, and camera freed us to find out moods. A mood of a painting can always be done with the specific guidelines, the specific attributes of a tree. Sometimes you want to make a tree dark and foreboding, and you have to change the mood with darks and lights and shapes. Here we have a very unusual shape that is abstract, but you can tell it has geometric foundations in it. Was going to be a square, a rectangle, was going to be a triangle, but it's not, and now it's almost a pathway to a point. Thinking like that opens the mind for physicists and theoretical scientists, and a lot of knowledge comes from theoretical science. Artists can be theoretical scientists as well. I've done paintings that have astrophysics physics theories in them for law enforcement and justice to find truth. It's amazing how you can open up and find these things as you go. One day I'll show you that slide from that painting. Okay, so in my gesture drawing, for instance, it's really fast, right? This line looks like scribbling at first, but then you see the instruments. And that is the mood, the energy of that group. It was very energetic, exciting, and wonderful to listen to. And I hope those drawings caught the attention of people. I know it did. People have talked to me about them. That's another thing. If you're making art, expect an audience. Unless you don't want anyone to see it, you better hide them away. Because people love to look at art. It's so wonderful. And you want to talk about your art, what it means to you, and they might open up and talk to you what it means to them. And that's what it's all about, communication. It's so fun to find out what somebody sees in your art that maybe you didn't even know. But it's there anyway. It might come out of your subconscious. It just may be a truth that just exists on its own. So, be prepared for wonderful surprises. Of course, some people want to be critics, but mostly people won't say if they don't like something. They'll just dwell on the things they like, and that's also true of sales. Okay, so we've got the shape idea done, geometric and abstract. You've got the idea of point or dot, lines, and then shape. And now we're going to do a shape. I like curvy shapes. I like curvy lines. So I'm going to do a shape like a gesture drawing. And I'm going to put my charcoal in one place, and I'm going to draw a curvy shape. Puzzle pieces are kind of like this. Without lifting my pencil, my charcoal pen chalk off. Okay, so I've got a shape there. I don't know if you can see that or not very well. But there it is. Yeah. And I'm going to cut it out. Now this is just newsprint. When you get to this point, I'm going, hopefully, the very end next year, I'm going to have 6 shapes, all different, abstract, painted, with black and white graphics that children have helped me design and put together in a 3-dimensional table sculpture. But you want to take your big shape, do a big shape. You might want to do small shapes at first and go around in a small piece of paper and just experiment. Just be free with your way your hand goes, the way you hold your chalk, the charcoal pencil. Just go around and do different lines, connect different dots or points, as Kandinsky said, and make your shapes. Remember, that's when the lines connect, and they can come from geometric shapes. You can start with geometric shapes if that's what you like, or you can just go, put on some music, and flow with the music. The music goes from your ears to your brain to your hand. And that is a wonderful, wonderful pathway to make abstract shapes. There's a lot of abstract expressionist artists around who are one with jazz music. Jazz and abstraction go together. Also, scientific theories, places where scientists work out their ideas, and they do it mathematically, but it's like a map when you see it. If you ever watch Big Bang Theory, you've seen Sheldon the most working on a whiteboard, all these mathematical theories of physics. That's because he's a theorist, and they have all kinds of puzzles they want to solve in the world that are known all over the world. And they want to find out about the universe. I guess they feel like Earth is already done. I don't. But anyway, so now I have my shape. It's all cut out. You know, it's like a big puzzle piece, or you might see a cactus, or you might see just an anthropomorphic form. And I'm going to make some cuts in it, here and there. I don't know if this will work or not. I'm going to try it. Alrighty. And take it. Remember, you may want to start small, and then, but at the end, I'd like to see you do a big newsprint sheet and make a big form, and see, now you can start to make spaces with your, here we go, with your piece, your shape that you just made and cut out. You can start to make shapes, make spaces that exist there, because, oh wow, I might even be able to, okay, I think I got another place where that can go. You can cut out those places, cut out and twist around the paper so that you have a variety of change it, do different positions, find out what you like. Oh, I know I like that. What is that? That's a different kind of shape. Okay, so I'm going to try it this way. Just experiment. Art is experimentation. It comes from science too, but basically art's the first. Science really developed, and mathematics from art, believe it or not. And why? Because of the power of observation. Yes, the power of observation. And that is what connects art and science, math, technology together. The power of observation. Okay, so I've got quite a shape here that's interconnected with slots. And I didn't know it would look like this. All right, it's floppy paper. When you have cardboard, it doesn't do this. When you have colors, you see it differently. We're going to do advanced shapes like this with colors. That's coming. So, you've got form, which can be three-dimensional, and you have shape, which can be geometric. A lot of sculptors use geometry, and a lot of abstract painters do too. It's very tight and controlled, even contemporary. But I really like it when artists get free and abstract. One of my favorite artists, and I know most people don't understand him at all, is Jackson Pollock. And he is called a fluidity physicist, believe it or not. And he invented the drip painting. And he was a real jazz lover in his time. Came from the Midwest and settled in New York and started doing these drip paintings, and on black canvases. They were white, some white, and sometimes he used a red or a blue, and just freed it up. And Peggy Guggenheim discovered him, put him in her beautiful museum, and he brought abstract art to the United States. But it developed first in Russia, Germany, and Paris. We also have the Impressionists developing into abstract art, and with Mr. Turner in England, one of my favorite artists ever, his Impressionist paintings became abstract. There are so many ways. I wish you would get books on these people, these early pioneers of art, and find out how they developed into totally abstract artists. Beautiful work. If you see them in person, they're very moving. There's a lot of textures and patterns And that's the thing we're going to look at next. We're going to go into negative and positive shapes more. That's the black and the white. And the black and white space, excuse me. And we're going to look at pattern and texture as stippling and repetitive in art to make patterns and textures in a large composition. Spaces in there. And we're going to look at composition and perspective using positive and negative space and how master painters have used that. And we're going to use colors at the very end. Just go explore colors, primary, secondary, complementary, and develop your own colors, making hues and shades. And finally, we're going to work on concepts, the subjects that you love. Still lifes, portraits, landscapes, seascapes, or just totally abstract. Whatever you want to do. Abstract expressionism is one of my favorite modes of painting. I did almost all my early work as an abstract expressionist, and I've done some completely abstract paintings too. All right, so I've given you an idea of what's to come. I haven't given you new things to buy, just a pair of scissors. You'll need that to cut out your forms. Remember to make your shapes independent of the plane and cut them out and try to interlock them together. You can have 2 or 3 of them if you like. You probably need more, stronger paper. Get your drawing paper or cardstock and put those together that way. And you have 3-dimensional sculptures developing from your 2-dimensional planes that come out of your dots or points and lines. So from Kandinsky from the 1800s to now, this is your artist guiding you along on the fundamentals, the elements, or the laws of art. Michelle Powers. I hope you have a great time finding out what to do with what you love. Bye-bye.